Hi there. My name is Pastor Katie Emery, and I am one of the pastors at First Evangelical Lutheran Church in Longmont, Colorado. As a pastor in the Lutheran Church, I could probably talk to you for days about Christianity, about its origins, its history, its rituals, its beliefs, and so much more. I am a leader in the Christian Church. And in the Lutheran iteration of the Christian Church, and I am a leader in that place for a reason. I believe that it is through this denomination and practice and religion and set of beliefs that I have the truest connection with God. However, I also believe that there is truth, faith, dedication, and relationship with God that can be found through other religions as well. God can reveal God's self in any number of ways, and I believe that. That is what this course is about. To give a little bit of insight into a few other religions so that we may respect them, even if we do not always agree with them on every point. So welcome to this course on world religions. By no means will any of these classes be a complete study or an exhaustive study of any of the religions, but it will provide a brief introduction and a basis for discussion between you and your small group or you and the rest of your life with anyone else. As we delve into the topic of religions of the world, we begin with what are called the Abrahamic religions. That is, those religions that trace their heritage back through the person of Abraham that we read about in Genesis. Christianity is one of those religions. So there you go, you already know one of them. The other two Abrahamic religions are Judaism and Islam. Judaism and Christianity trace their lineage through the son of Abraham and Sarah, whose name was Isaac. And then Islam traces their lineage from the son of Abraham and Hagar, who was Sarah's handmaiden. That son's name was Ishmael. But all three of these religions have Abraham as the first father of their religion. Father Abraham had many sons. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are some of those sons. Today's class, we're going to focus on Judaism. One thing to know right off the bat about Judaism is that just like Christianity, there is more than one way to practice Judaism. In Christianity, we have different denominations. There are even different denominations that practice their faith differently within Lutheranism. There's the ELCA, in which I am a pastor, but then there's also the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, Lutheran Brethren, Lutheran congregations in Mission for Christ, and quite a few other ones that are just Lutheran. The same is true for Judaism, except instead of denominations, they're called sects. The three major that you will hear about are Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. But again, there are other subcategories within those three. The differences between them can in some cases be quite great. But when it comes down to it, they do share some central beliefs that hold them together in Judaism. The most central of these beliefs is that there is one God, and only one God. This God is the God of the universe, the God that created, the God that saved them from slavery in Egypt, the God who gave them the Torah. For some Jews, the name of God is so holy that they will not even write it. Instead, they write it like this, putting an asterisk in the place of the O that we would put as God. In Hebrew, that name is Yahweh, but it cannot be spoken aloud. Instead, they will say Adonai or Elohim, for they fear if they use the sacred name of God, they will use it in vain, which is against the Ten Commandments. The way that is written is like this. They also share a common scripture between the sects, which is more or less what we would refer to as the Old Testament. Though the order is a bit different, the Hebrew scriptures are divided into 3 groups of books. The first and most important of those 3 sections is the Torah, which you heard me reference a minute ago. This is the law, and it is the first 5 books of our Old Testament: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. How many of you got those ones? Well done. These books are said to have been written by Moses and given to him directly to him on Mount Sinai. So these are the texts that guide much of their faith, their belief, and their ethics. The Torah contains 613 commandments, or mitzvot, as they are called in Hebrew. This includes the 10 Commandments that we would be familiar with. It is for them, this Torah, the Word of God. Though there are indeed 613 laws, only the most strict of Jewish sects will follow as many as they can, namely some Orthodox Jews and Hasidic Jews. Now I say most of them follow most of them because none of them can follow all 613 anymore, because many of those commandments are no longer even possible since the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Nevertheless, the 10 Commandments are adhered to by all, and some dietary laws like not eating pork or keeping kosher kitchens, which you can read more about, are followed by all but those in certain more liberal versions of Judaism. The other 2 sections of the Hebrew Scriptures are known as the Nevi'im, which is the prophets in Hebrew, and that includes books like Isaiah and Jeremiah and Obadiah. We also have these in our scriptures and call them the prophets, so it's a good parallel. And then the 3rd section is called the Ketuvim, which means writings in Hebrew. This section consists of the other books that are not the prophets or the law. Easy way to narrow it down. This includes books like the historical books of Chronicles. It includes poetry and songs like the Psalms or Song of Songs, and even some of the books that we might consider prophets like Nehemiah and Ezra. These scriptures are held by all Jews as sacred, though the oral tradition and interpretation of especially the Torah is sometimes held over the written texts. Jews believe that it is important to discuss and talk about what the words of their scriptures mean for the world today and in every age, in much the same way as we do as Christians. Though the words remain static, the interpretation continues to evolve and be applied to current contexts, as they too believe that God is still active in the world. Another commonality for all Jews is the practice of Shabbat, or the Sabbath. This is their day of rest and worship, and takes place on Saturday. Usually we think of days as beginning when the sun comes up in the morning and ending when the sun goes down at night. But this is not the way that it works in Judaism, at least for worship. Especially in reference to their worship life, the day seems to be almost flipped. Instead of Sabbath beginning at sunrise on Saturday, it begins at sundown on Friday and ends at sundown on Saturday. At the beginning of each Shabbat, Jewish families will welcome in Shabbat with a short service, usually around the dinner table. In Reform Judaism, it may look like this.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Kay, and here at Reform Judaism we get all kinds of questions about Shabbat and how to do it. These are the things that you're going to need for Shabbat. You will need a tzedakah box, you will need candlesticks with candles in it, a kiddush cup with wine or juice in it, and challah with a cloth to cover it. So the first thing that we do for Shabbat is to put some money in a tzedakah box. And tzedakah is our practice of giving money to those who are in need. We think it's a nice way to start Shabbos by giving some tzedakah. The second thing that we do is we light Shabbat candles. And after we light the candles, we bring our hands to our eyes 3 times, cover our eyes, and say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. And as we uncover our eyes, Shabbat has begun. The next thing that we do is we say kiddush, which is the blessing over the fruit of the vine or the wine or grape juice that you have. And it's always good to have a prayer book with you so that you're sure that you're saying the words with intentionality. You're going to elevate your cup of wine or your grape juice, and there are 2 versions of kiddush. One is longer, one is shorter. So for now, we're going to use the shorter version for the sake of brevity. But if you look right here, you'll see a link, and if you go to that link, you can find the language and the words and the audio of the longer version as well. So raise our kiddush cup, and we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. The last thing that we do is we bless the challah. So you may notice that some people use 2 chalot or maybe use a little bit of salt, which is part of Jewish custom, but you're going to take the cover off, you're going to lift your challah up, and you're going to say the blessing, which is Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And then lots of people will say B'tei Avon at the end. Now, some families are cutting families, some families are tearing families. It's kind of up to you to figure out what you want to be. And then we say Shabbat Shalom.
As you may have noticed in the video, Jews use the language of Hebrew in their worship life. This is because originally their scriptures were written in Hebrew. And still, if you were going to go to the synagogue, you may hear pieces of the Torah or other scriptures read in Hebrew, or rather chanted, like you also heard in that video. Not all Jews do this, but many do. I think it adds a bit of depth to their worship and their spiritual life. And I also really like the Hebrew language personally, so it's really fun for me. Can you think of any Hebrew words that we use in Christianity? On Shabbat, Jewish people go to their place of worship, which is called the synagogue, like I just said. And they have worship services that follow a liturgical pattern, as ours does. And they go through the year, marked by 5 festivals, as commanded by God. We also have festivals that we follow. So again, you can see a parallel there. For them, their festivals are Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, Yom Kippur, which are the 10 days that follow Rosh Hashanah. This is the place that sort of looks like Lent, what we would consider Lent, where they go through a seeking of purification through forgiving others and repenting of their sins. The 3rd festival is called Pesach, or Passover, which celebrates the delivery of the Israelites from captivity in Egypt. Again, this is something that we also recognize, and the Passover comes right in our Holy Week. The 4th major festival is Shavuot, or Pentecost, which takes place 7 weeks after Passover, or 50 days, which is what Pentecost means. And it commemorates the giving of the Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai. And then the last one is the Festival of Booths, or Sukkot, which celebrates the harvest. Then they start all over again. Just as their day for worship is guided by the light that governs the night, namely the moon, the calendar of the Jewish festivals is also based around the moon. They follow a lunar calendar with 12 months, adding a 13th month 7 times in 19 years to realign their calendar with the solar calendar. This rhythm is noticed even in our own calendar as we reflect upon the changing day of Easter for us. It's because of the lunar calendar of the Jewish faith. Pretty neat, right? Did you know that? One other celebration that Jews have, which parallels our own, is that of the bar or bat mitzvah. This is a celebration when a boy or girl is about 13 years old, where the youth is considered old enough to take responsibility for obedience to the Torah on their own. After the child has had their bar or bat mitzvah, they are considered an adult in the faith community. This is similar to our own confirmation, where you are considered old enough to take on the responsibility of affirming your baptismal promises, and you too are considered an adult in the eyes of your faith community. Judaism is a very rich religion and old. It is full of rituals and practices and beliefs and celebrations that are deeply rooted in relationship with God, the same God we worship. Though there are certainly differences in our religions, we have a shared heritage and a great love for God. And for that, we give thanks. Shalom, dear friends.